June, is it? Okay. Today is the 11th February. We're having a MicroProfile tech discussion. So we have a lot of items to discuss today. Please help out. This is myths and etc. Let me share my screen. Share. Oh no. Where is? So it's as a have a look. Basically, it's a 7.1 release. So it's the kind of the 7.1 release. So it's Joanne and I worked out the timeline. So currently, content is health 4.1, telemetry 2.1, and OpenAPI 4.1. They're going to be have a release, and also the schedule. You see the dates. So next, the one. So basically, it's kind of the we should start looking at creating plan reviews from now on. Since the plan is 18th of February, so which is next week, should start a ballot on the plan review. So this is also after today's call. I will send a quick kind of email to the Google group for the spec teams to prepare for the plan review. I think OpenAPI already got a plan review. So Martin, I know you are on the call. You will create a health plan review, right, Martin? I thought Martin is on the call. Are you on mute?
No, he's not on mute, but he seems to be having some audio problems. Maybe just type it in chat.
Yeah, my microphone probably isn't working again. Can you hear me?
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, so I already created a release plan, so I think we are ready for release review for health.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So that means also is kind of the I will create a telemetry plan review and getting ready, and then we will basically on the 18th Feb or before that, we should have the plan review ballot started. Then can go from there. Okay, so that's for the 7.1 release. Are there any kind of questions on the 7.1? Next is to create plan reviews and put on ballot prior to 18th Feb. So that ballot can be concluded on 25th. Okay, so that's the kind of the for the MicroProfile, basically 7.1. So John, do you want to say anything about 7.1?
No, I mean, I think you've addressed it. It's just the one dependency that's a bit out of our control gets back to, and I know Ed and you and everyone else are working on it, is the TCK testing and the artifacts in Maven Central. So
oh yeah,
just a bit of a reminder that that's something that we're dependent on.
yes, so that's kind of we discussed at a greater length on the Jakarta spec committee call about the we clarified basically the Roberto's requirement. So Roberto, so it's basically is kind of the last time you offered to help, right? So like for basically push the artifacts, the GR artifacts to Maven Central. And then are you still happy to help out? Roberto?
Yeah, I know he's with his kids right now, so he might be distracted.
Okay.
Oh, he's off.
so-
Actually, he's off mute, so maybe he's having audio problems.
Okay. So it's Roberto, afterwards I can send you a quick message. So if you could join the TCK call, they will discuss more kind of the on the TCK call. Alternatively, I think is I will connect you with Ed Burn. Oh, Ed is here. Ed, you.
Hello? Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, Ed and Roberto, you two get connected.
sure, exactly. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
So let me give a quick status on this work. The platform TCK project is working to implement the requirement that was specified by Ed Bratt in issue 55 from the specification committee issue tracker. And we will be, when that work is complete, publishing the TCK jars to Maven Central so people can run them using a regular Java developer workflow. However, when submitting a CCR, you still need to certify that the SHA sum is the same as the one that's in the zip file from the download location on eclipse.org. So when we do the work to publish the jars, they will be the jar files that are in the zip that's published to Maven Central. But when you submit a CTR, you're testifying that the SHA sums that you used for your jar files are the ones that match the ones in the zip file. So you just have to be aware of that because if it determines that someone makes a mistake somewhere along the line and the jar files that are in Maven Central are not the same exact ones as those that are in the zip, then you'll have to use the ones that are in the zip. So we're going to try to make it so that they're the same, but we do know that CI/CD mistakes can sometimes happen. But the fact is the SHA-256, and I thank you for correcting me, Emily, it's not just SHA, it's SHA-256 of the zip file that's on eclipse.org is the important thing when you're submitting a CCR stating that you are a compatible implementation. Now, the question of like, where are we blocked? We had run into some technical problems with just some Maven repackaging and unzipping and uploading in a CI job. So in terms of being pressed for time and not having sufficient cycles to debug those problems and push all the way through, Ivar and I had to just put the work aside, and that's where it stands. So when Ivar comes back from vacation, we're going to resume it, but it would be great if someone could come alongside and help us debug that, and perhaps even take the work and get it over the finish line.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help on that, but as far as I understood, at least previously, there was a concern of me doing that work because I'm not part of the Jakarta group.
No, I have no such concern.
Okay,
it'll be a call.
That's still a problem,
Yeah.
but
No,
Yeah, he'll have the same roadblocks that you were bumping into, Ed Burns.
well, yes,
you know,
I'm not
access
gonna.
and stuff.
He'll do the work. Like I'm thinking of a collaborative debugging session
Oh, okay.
where I'll be on driving the keyboard, but and maybe copy paste things. You know how things are. with
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Debug session.
Yeah, Roberto can go ahead to do the PRs and etc. Ed can review and merge.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it will be PRs or CI job stuff.
Yeah,
But
true.
It will likely be CI job stuff. So
Yeah, okay. anyway, you two work together and get
Sure.
this resolved.
Happy to.
Okay, will you email me about okay,
I'll send a mail.
thanks.
Okay, sounds great. Okay then, so that's in the good hands. So good. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Roberto. So are there anything else for this on this issue? Okay. If not, next thing is the kind of the MicroProfile AI plan. So basically, I don't know, is the kind of the, if you have not read this message on the sent to Jakarta and the MicroProfile group. So basically, the Jakarta and the MicroProfile both interested to integrate, basically provide a solution for Java kind of AI infused application development. MicroProfile AI have done, basically the group have done a lot of prototype. The prototype is in the, basically it's a small red LLM. So it's in here. So as you can see, a lot the basically is the integration with the telemetry, npconfig, and also CDI, plus like the fault tolerance coming up. So it's a kind of the event, basically the with some experiment and etc. And the group settled down to basically adopt long-term 4G. So it's as you know, like AI has been changing within minutes, daily kind of minutes. So it's kind of premature to have any standard. So it's kind of the suggestion is to join force with launching 4G community. So basically launching 4G is quite popular, it's been de facto standard. And then the kind of the there's a kind of the suggestion we go to contribute the integration to launching 4G kind of the community, the project. And then we open kind of repo or create a repo launching 4G MicroProfile Jakarta, so that both community can collaborate there and connect with like various LLMs. And then what makes it better is there's a launching 4G Spring as well. Basically, we go there and hand in hand with other framework. So it's basically it's kind of the we can also in the same time and let launching 4G actually promote MicroProfile Jakarta as well. The other approach is directly basically not creating a standard, but is create another repo. It's pretty much like a library. So there's basically it's some discussion here so far. Also in MicroProfile AI, this week we discussed the basically option 1, so which is we contribute to launching 4G is most favorable choice. So it's kind of the so we plan to have this repo created. I have to double check with the Eclipse Foundation to see are there any trademark issues to use this. I don't think so, because there's a MicroProfile Jakarta used in any other places, etc. So that's kind of the quick summary for this AI conversation. Okay, Ed.
Yeah, I had an action item to ensure that this matter of can we use Jakarta AE MicroProfile in the name of the repository was brought up at the steering committee, but we didn't have enough time today to bring it up. So
yeah,
getting that confirmation is still outstanding.
Yes. So what I'm going to do, Ed, I'm going to send an email to YAML, so in Eclipse Foundation. So get
That's a
things.
great idea.
Yeah. So we don't need to wait for another 2 weeks. Yeah. So I have to do.
So could I ask a question? I guess I'm not totally clear that the proposal, I'm not sure, is the proposal to take the small rye-LLM code and migrate it in and put that into a folder under LangChain for J-example?
It will like basically do a take the current LLM kind of the like a micro small dash LLM and do a basically the contribute to the launching 4G under the repo launching 4G dash MicroProfile dash Jakarta.
So,
So it's a repository, not a folder.
well,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so I'm,
repository.
so LangChain for J, so you would create, I guess, in the write-up, it would be really good if you could actually say, we want to, you know, these are the actions we want to take, and this is where we would like those, you know, this is where the you know, this is what what things will look like once those actions are taken. I'm sorry, I just couldn't exactly tell.
Yeah, contributes the code base.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment, Ed. I think it should be very clear what the ask / idea or steps are. I think that's very good.
Yeah.
I mean, has anyone, and maybe it's premature, I don't know, asked the Lane4j community about actually adding a repo in their GitHub org? Is
I
this
have
something
not
they would
asked.
want?
I have not asked, but I don't. I don't think there will be a problem because IBM we already create a repo like for the under launching 4G previously without any problems. So we create basically not directly repo, but we create a repo under this org, the folder rather. So
So yeah, if you could just
What-
in the proposal, just write out exactly what we want to contribute and where we want to contribute it to, that would be that would answer my first question.
Okay, so let me see basically here small, right? Let me copy the the repo. Is that clear?
I think we might want to be more specific and say a little bit about the folder structure maybe underneath the new LangChain for J MicroProfile Jakarta repository.
LangChain for
So-
J is an org, right?
Yes,
So you
LangChain4j
can
is an
have,
org.
you can have multiple, so there would be another repository. You, in that, in
Yeah.
the minutes, if you could just add the name, the new name.
It is
Okay.
in there.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't see it anywhere.
It wasn't in boldface or anything like that.
Maybe what you're saying is even here like this, but
Yeah,
that
yes.
link will be will be broken. Launching 4G dash profile dash Jakarta.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So
Get
this
rid of that first one then, because it's you don't need to say it 3 times.
oh, you mean this, but
Yeah.
at least that okay.
Okay.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, so this is the kind of the plan. So we have 2 actions. One is I will send to basically at least agree on the at least get at least check with the Eclipse Foundation to see whether well, okay to use a name should not be a problem. Once then they agree to be able to use this name, and I will get in touch with the Launching4j community, and to have the kind of the repo created. Now it's kind of we discussed briefly in the MicroProfile AI kind of the meeting. There's the kind of I propose we do a Launching4j dash MicroProfile dash Jakarta. I think it's what is it? I think we discussed there already, Yan. I
No,
guess
the meeting ended early and we didn't finish the discussion. We just want to ask both variants if they are valid and then make the decision in the next meeting, as far as I remembered.
okay. Anyway, I thought John said it's kind of because it's all the work being done and by MicroProfile AI, and also there's more integration using MicroProfile kind of the specs and etc. It makes more sense to have Launching4j dash MicroProfile dash Jakarta. Didn't hear any objections. So anyway, we can this again.
Yeah, my
discuss
objection
again
was
on Monday.
my objection was that if we want to reflect the technical dependencies in the name, then Jakarta need to be named first. If we want to name it or bring it into the name, yeah, the option LangChain4j minus MicroProfile would be an option, a valid option for me too. But then there were arguments, especially by Ed Burns, that Jakarta should be part of it.
So I think we should both have MicroProfile and Jakarta there to basically reflect. So for anyone to either understand either technology, they know this is something they need. So the other things I think is kind of because MicroProfile, more integration with MicroProfile, to be honest. So I know, John, you have some reasoning as well.
Well, you've already
Anything
stated it.
else?
So
So this project is an implementation. It's under the small Y project. It's not contributed to Eclipse, is it?
Not contribute to Eclipse. It will be contribute to the Launching4j.
No. The small Y project as it is right now. That's not an Eclipse project, is it?
No.
So Eclipse has no real say in whether whoever governs the small Y project decides they want to move a repository into, in this case, LangChain4j. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so
Yeah.
So it's really just the committers that need to be consulted and make sure that none of them are against this idea. Is that right?
No, I think the question is, can the small rye community undertake this change and name a thing as we're proposing? And does Eclipse have any problem with that?
So
Yeah,
I guess I'm sorry. I'm talking about the code that's in the small rye
Okay, the code is
organization.
fine. The code can whatever small rye.
Well,
yeah,
well,
that's a Red Hat project, right? So they need to accept that that code is moved to another project.
okay, that's where I was.
Small
I was
rye.
trying to lead us to that.
Sorry to interrupt. Let me just clarify. So, Small Rye is a project that is sponsored by Red Hat, and many commuters are from Red Hat, but he also has commuters from other communities. So there is
Yes,
IBM
yes,
commuters,
yes,
there are
yes.
independent commuters, and Red Hat has no saying on what happens on Small Rye, even though it does sponsor it. So Small Rye is an Apache licensing project, and I think I can talk by pretty much every commuter that we are happy to do whatever the community wants to do with Small Rye AI or Small Rye LLM.
Okay, so as long as we have some element of, I guess, permission from whoever it was that sponsored or created the small rye source, I don't think there's a problem. I'm not even sure well, we certainly can ask Eclipse. I don't know why they would have any objection to the name in whatever form it exists. I was just concerned about moving the small rye intellectual property into a project. Essentially, it will be run by LangChain4j.
Oh, the request regarding the Eclipse Foundation is only because of the brand use of Jakarta and MicroProfile, and that is used in an external non-Eclipse project to verify that we don't have to rename it because of some trademark issues.
I hope not.
I hope not, because Spring didn't have to do that, did they? The reason we're wanting to do this is because if you go on LangChain4j and search for Spring, it's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have anything.
Yeah, I think this is more like to Eclipse Foundation's favor, to the MicroProfile Jakarta E community favor. Basically, it's a kind of service out in other community, and then basically doing a marketing kind of for MicroProfile Jakarta from the launching 4G community. But anyway,
yeah, my concern was just to ask before and not get surprised, because we had a similar issue when we want to use OpenTelemetry in MicroProfile, and then we discovered, no, that's not allowed officially. So we named it MP Telemetry only.
that's a separate thing. This is kind of Eclipse Foundation that not allowed to use OTel. It's not like kind of the
And
other way around.
OpenTelemetry is owned by the Cloud Native Foundation. While
Yeah, and they had the issue. Yeah.
And Small Rye, I mean, it is not on any foundation. It's just a totally open source project.
And nobody, and Red Hat isn't going to object to us doing this.
No.
No. Okay.
So just FYI, I'm the tech lead for Small Rye, representing Red Hat. So if you need like another level of assurance.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. So the kind of the I will basically for the anyway for the second for assurance I will drop an email to EMO and about using this name. I don't think there will be any kind of objection, but anyway I will do that. Kind of for the naming thing. I mean, launching 4G dash MicroProfile dash Jakarta. So it's can bring up in the next week's Monday's call again for the kind of the people's preferences. Are there any other kind of the strong view on these names? Okay, if not, and we move on to do the kind of use the remaining time to discuss the config and kind of the plan. We have this kind of config plan, config discussion in the past few years. So it's kind of and then like Jakarta config was spec was created eventually after 3 years and didn't make much progress. Now it's not ready for EE12. Now it's back to the drawing board. So it's basically it's if you follow config dev or the kind of the MicroProfile Google group, and you have seen like a discussion started from Gerard, Ed, also Roberto joined in, and me joined in, Reza and others joined in. So basically, this kind of also earlier in the Jakarta steering committee, this was heavily discussed, kind of with two options. There's one option, so basically is kind of the Jakarta config, borrow MicroProfile config, and with namespace update. And then the kind of there's kind of some other changes and etc. The other approach is basically I wrote down, so it's kind of the use the MicroProfile as a without namespace change. So it's the plan is to rework a MicroProfile config into two parts. So separate SPI, so basically without CDI dependency, and this is the core. The second part will be a CDI integration. So this is included in the config full. So similar to the CDI core and CDI full. So it's kind of in the Jakarta EE12, we get some MicroProfile config core included there. And then it's kind of as we discussed last time, is in the past 6 years, there's no change in the core part. The SPI part is pretty much stable. So I think basically this is pretty much stable ground. So Jakarta just pull in and use it. And there's no kind of the duplication, just one config, no circular dependency, kind of because it doesn't depend on anything. In MicroProfile, basically, we also know the consumers. So we should seriously consider the SPI part, so maintain that part and don't introduce any kind of incompatible changes. So that's kind of the pretty much a summary about these two options. So now I open up for further discussion, kind of to see whether they have any concerns to any kind of the options and etc. Okay, so let's start a conversation. So Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, first, as we discussed last week in the community call and in the Jakarta platform call before, I started that discussion on the CN4J channel and then got some resistance regarding having that discussed there from Tanya. And then today in the Jakarta platform call, we discussed it there, and I'm a little bit surprised why the discussion is suppressed to have it on the right place from my perspective, and as we discussed last week. Not going into details if you don't like to here now for the technical discussion. For the technical part, I would say there are more than two options. There's the second option, just take it as it is without a namespace change to Jakarta. that is one option, and splitting it up to have support for non CDI dependent specs and CDI itself. So specs in Jakarta core profile that are down the dependency graph of CDI. To have config support there, then a split up need to be done. That can be done before or after the transition of the spec, from my perspective. And we need to decide if we would like to see it have it unchanged, keeping its original namespace and moved, or have that namespace change done, and then maybe have to release a MicroProfile config release that has a dependency to Jakarta config that adds that compatibility layer to the original namespace. That is an option from my perspective. And to go into detail in that option 1, where the namespace change happens, there was a discussion about the config file. There's the original MicroProfile -config.properties file, and that would be replaced by Jakarta -config.properties, and which default ordinal value the precedents need to have be defined for that file. And I would say, as I commented in the proposal and discussed in the platform call today on Jakarta, that I think if we use the 100 as the MicroProfile config file did, then we can do that in combination with the Jakarta config file with the same precedence value. Then the second precedence rule takes place about alphabetical order, which means we have a solution that does not introduce breaking changes to existing implementations of Jakarta config. And we keep both files be valid and have a defined order where the Jakarta config file should be ordered below the MicroProfile config file. And the original discussion was in the Jakarta, on the Jakarta config side, to have a Jakarta config.properties file with a default ordinal value of 200, which will be above the MicroProfile file, and the 200 was used by implementations and intended for use by implementations, for example, as an application properties file. And just defining an application properties file, as discussed on the Jakarta side today, that creates issues with existing implementations too. So try to find a way where it's not harmful for MicroProfile config at all, and MicroProfile in total.
So if
Did you-
application properties is harmful because it collides and could be a common name between the two, why can't a different common name be chosen between the two? I don't think users want to deal with having two different config files.
Oh, that users usually try not to do that for sure. But if you want to define some default values and use it, for example, in the TCK testing and things like that, then introducing an config-specific properties file with a lower precedence that can be overwritten with the pattern that you only need to overwrite things and keep the default or sensible defaults, that could make sense and work pretty well in the past.
I wouldn't design something just around the TCK. I would prefer the user perspective over the TCKs.
I agree.
Yeah, then you can omit the Jakarta config properties file completely. That would be a solution too. And keep it up to the implementation, how to override definitions.
Yeah, I think, and in MicroProfile, kind of like the community discussion, I think if like the kind of bring npconfig to Jakarta with namespace change, that's pretty much it will be owned by Jakarta. So that pretty much like the whatever Jakarta do is basically depend on the Jakarta, basically it will be decided by Jakarta community. However, I think that creates a big issue with basically like a name clash. So basically you have like a same API, different namespace. And then it's kind of IDE is kind of, you can't easily resolve the kind of the package import. This is one thing. The other thing is kind of, once we do this and like basically change the namespace, and eventually will be eventually it's gonna they will diverge, and then it's kind of again the two different config, and then people compare and create a lot of confusions. So with that, like I think the better off is to use the option 2. So basically the push Jakarta, basically directly donate, get a Jakarta EE12, directly include the MicroProfile config core. So this is kind of something is kind of the will be kind of the discussed and also is kind of further discussed at Jakarta EE steering committee. This yeah, that's my point of view. Okay, Ed.
I just want to get an establishment of, if option 2 is chosen, isn't that equivalent to saying that any Jakarta EE vendor that wants to adopt the version of Jakarta EE that is using MicroProfile config under the clauses of option 2 is also therefore now placing a dependency for the first time ever, an implementation requirement on MicroProfile? That's a new thing. Is that, I'm just confirming, is that a new thing?
Yeah, if like MicroProfile config core in the Jakarta E12 core profile, yes, they can use the implementation of MicroProfile config. So obviously they have to basically pass the TCK and etc. in MicroProfile config. This is basically the same thing as you create a brand new kind of the spec in Jakarta. For this, basically the spec lives in MicroProfile, and we stabilize it, and then the kind of the but you still need to pass the TCK and etc.
Right, but for a vendor's perspective, it's something new because they would also now have to vet all of the legal processes and IP flows that MicroProfile has, whereas before they did not have to do that. I know IBM does, because IBM implements both MicroProfile and Jakarta EE, but not all Jakarta EE vendors do both. And this would be a new thing, right?
Yeah, it's basically the new like the spec. You count as a new spec, and also the good thing is with the MicroProfile, don't need to join the MicroProfile community, and you can freely use the TCK, and you claim the basically the compatible implementation. So there's no kind of any. This is a good thing, like in MicroProfile community, in our kind of charter, we don't say you have to join the MicroProfile community.
Oh, I understand that, but aren't there some legal issues? I mean, I don't know. I'm just seeking to get acknowledgement that if we take option 2, it's a new requirement on vendors that did not exist before. It's introducing a completely new IP source that we're forcing vendors to accept. And that's all I wanted to that is the fact that we're asking in option 2, right?
bringing in a MicroProfile config implementation will be a new IP requirement as well. Or whether
Well,
that
if we
comes
copy
from-
it over to Jakarta, then it's covered under the whatever the
That isn't what I
vendor's
meant to say.
existing agreement with Jakarta is, then option 1, that is.
I just meant to say that bringing in an implementation at all is a new requirement. So how is bringing in a new spec any different than the implementation?
Because it's from a different standard body.
It's a,
So
this
so
is all,
there's no requirement in Jakarta on implementations. There's just requirements on that are tested in the TCKs and and written in the specifications. So one could use a MicroProfile or a small RAI implementation. One could write their own, right?
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
the vendor's choice.
So, but a vendor who hasn't hitherto depended on MicroProfile would not have any possible IP or legal reasons for not wanting to do so?
no, I don't think so. There's no kind of IP thing, MicroProfile IP is saying you're not allowed.
You have to meet the compatibility requirements of the TCK, right? That's how you do that is up to you, right? If you want to use somebody else's implementation, you may. If you want to write your own, you may do that too. Tommy Tribe, right, typically will write their own implementation.
But here we are
That's
talking
correct.
about a dependency of the specification. Right.
Well, right. If
And
we
for-
so that you're going to say, so in Jakarta EE, right, we do, we look for signatures, right, API signatures. So I can't remember if the MicroProfile does API signature tests, but that could be a requirement of the specification.
No, MicroProfile doesn't do that.
Okay, so
for my clarification, Emily, so option 2, you're proposing splitting a subset of MP config and bring that to Jakarta as a dependency, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's a difference to Jared approach, when I understand that correctly, where he wants to do a one-on-one or 100% functionality transfer.
That's option 1.
Yeah.
But that will be basically the didn't solve the circular dependency.
Oh, it would. If we, or if the existing MP config specification is converted into a Jakarta config specification one-to-one with the same functionality, just naming, having the namespace renamed and maybe the config file, the specific one renamed, then that can be done, and we might need an MP config version that has a dependency to Jakarta config that adds the existing namespace, so the transition of MicroProfile specs can be done afterwards, and both things work in parallel. What is not solved by that approach for sure is if Jakarta config should be used to configure a CDI or a dependency below a Jakarta CDI, then the split need to be done because otherwise you introduce a circular dependency because of that CDI dependency. But that can be done later too.
Okay, so let me add something else. Since we're discussing, since this will be like a technical discussion, just for you also to have an idea, I'm the main maintainer of all the configuration around Quarkus. So if we are to go into like a situation where we have to support both Jakarta config and MicroProfile config, I wouldn't say that's not possible. I will just say that's really, really undesired. And why? So if you look into the API, you have certain pieces of the API that return you a specific object from the API itself. For instance, config value, config source, or even converter or config. So if you come to a point where you have both APIs of both, you're going to have duplication in all of this. So meaning that the user not only going to have to choose which one to use, or if you're going to mix both of them, but it will also require to have instances of both APIs or instances of both objects to be able to return whatever the user wants, right? So
Yeah.
no, it's not yet, because that just creates a huge performance requirement on your runtime. So it's not something you should take lightly.
Yeah, I understand that. If we can prevent it, we can do a MicroProfile major release that is based on Jakarta config, and then we have that breaking change and accept that. If that is the better technical solution, we can do that. I was thinking about some way to support vendors that want to support both specification sets of Jakarta and MicroProfile in the same implementation, and have not the resources to do the change on every site at the same time and release, and have some compatibility layer that makes it possible to merge the existing versions of MicroProfile config specifications with that new Jakarta config in place.
I mean, going into MicroProfile config and having a dependency on Jakarta config to then break the entire API, I mean, of course, that's also possible, but I think that pretty much everyone's going to be pissed. It's just going to be a nightmare, because nobody is going, I mean, the regular user is not going to understand the value of us breaking the API just because of a namespace change. I mean, even between Java EE and Jakarta, most people didn't understand why we had to do that change. Now, if we go over there and we'll just say, hey, now we're going to change org MicroProfile or Eclipse MicroProfile to Jakarta, I mean, most people are still going to be unhappy with that, right? So again, we have to be really cautious about the requirements that we introduce if we have to support both, because these actually create performance requirements on your runtime, plus then introduce migration requirements to your customers or users, right? Obviously, what I will prefer is to keep the namespace and just evolve that namespace, right? So if there are things that are not okay, you can deprecate it and remove them later. If there are things that needs to be added, we can add it. I mean, we'll just do like a regular evolution, like any API, any library has done it until so far. I mean, that doesn't seem very difficult. But one of the things that I still didn't understand is, why can't Jakarta just use the namespace that we have right now? Why does it have to move to Jakarta? Even if the spec itself moves to Jakarta, can't it just use the namespace as is? Why there is a requirement to change the namespace? I still didn't got an answer to that question.
So this is more like kind of the people's taste. So I don't have like any I mean, process kind of the proof to say, no, you're not allowed to use the MicroProfile. So
Yeah,
basically,
please give me a proper answer. Just don't say just because, or just because Jakarta wants to have its own Jakarta namespace. Give me like a proper argument by saying, okay, there is a legal argument that Jakarta cannot use that. Then I'll ask, is there a way that we can change that requirement, right? But give me a proper argument, or give me a proper answer, not just none. So having an argument that's just by taste, that's not an argument at all. Not in this particular situation where we're just considering breaking everyone and creating like crazy requirements on all the runtimes.
I
can
said
see-
exactly same as the steering committee. I said this
Sure.
is not personal taste. It's not like, okay, I like the color red. I don't accept the color blue. So this is not something we should kind of entertain. So I agree. Basically, it's if they say it's kind of the Jakarta say it's okay, the MicroProfile names is not allowed. Show me why. I think it's for my approach. I think it's the option to basically this is the least this is also MicroProfile basic community kind of willing to collaborate with Jakarta and then split it up and get the basically the core included in E12 without changing, without moving anything. So Jakarta don't need to create a Jakarta config repo at all. So this is at least kind of the effort, and then also one single truth.
Right. I want to
Okay.
acknowledge your effort, Emily. Thank you. And I do see that there's effort on the part of the MicroProfile community for this. And I think also, Roberto, you do have a right to expect a technical reason why the Jakarta community is suggesting option 1. I am only the release co-coordinator for this. I'm not on the steering committee. I'm not on the specification committee. So I can't really speak for why that is.
No, I mean,
From my
that's
perspective,
fine.
I'm just trying to get something in the hands of users because Jakarta has not had a config system and it sucks.
Sure. And I mean, and that's fine. I mean, I understand your position. The only thing that I'm trying to understand is even when like 2 or 3 years ago we started the Jakarta config, no one knew how to tell me or say me what was the reason why I couldn't just use the same namespace. There was no.
That's good history. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
And just to add one extra thing, that decision actually hurt MicroProfile config, right? Because pretty much all evolution of MicroProfile config and altered because everyone was expecting to have a Jakarta config. That didn't happen, right? But so why will people invest time in evolving MicroProfile config when there was a competing Jakarta config happening at the same time? So in the end, we didn't have one and we hurt the other. So we need to be really cautious with what we're going to do next.
Yeah. So in consider time, we are time up. However, Ian patiently raise your hand. Ian, you have a final minute, and then we
Yeah.
conclude.
So my suggestion would be I put a link for the Scene4J discussion where we can have a discussion. Ed is not happy about that, but I think it's a good mailing list to discuss, especially things like that. And yeah, hopefully we are prepared for the next week's meeting.
Yeah, with that, I think that's today's call is kind of the continue with the mailing list discussion. I think it's from kind of a lot of people, kind of technical people on the config-dev and also MicroProfile Google group. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's what I would like to keep it that way.
yeah, exactly. I think it's that's a technical conversation. So that's what this mailing list was created for. So with
Yeah,
that,
but that's not a technical discussion, keeping the namespace. That's an organizational task, for example.
Oh, it is a technical discussion. Roberto just surfaced several really great technical reasons why it's a problem.
yeah,
So.
exactly. But anyway, basically all the discussions are happening, and I think is kind of also, I think is Tanya also like suggest like they on the kind of config-dev and then MicroProfile for further discussions. But anyway, that's the end of the call, and then we'll continue the discussion next week.
Hey,
Thank you
Roberto,
all.
real quick, did you get my email?
Let me check. Yeah, I got it.
All right, thanks.
Okay,
Thanks.
great.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you all. Bye.